Welcome to the Week in Italian Startup, where we discuss the latest highlights happening in the Italian tech and investment ecosystem. All right, welcome Nick, welcome everyone.
Ciao Jack, hello everybody, welcome back.
So another episode of the Week in Italian Startup where Niccolo and I will dissect the latest news happening in Italy. So, interesting week, pretty technical, I would say, in general. Some biotech, some fintech, very, very specific deals, very unique, I would say. Let's start from the biotech sector. So with Sibylla Biotech raising 23 million euro in a round led by Venture. So again, health tech, biotech, we're not expert. We kind of see it from the outside. I was trying to understand exactly the kind of product they were trying to develop. The raise is pretty substantial, I would say. Maybe on the biotech, well, in general, in the ecosystem is quite substantial. Maybe in the biotech is kind of a beginning sort of financing, maybe, because the sector obviously requires like a lot of capital, and it's famous for being like extremely the protagonist of big rounds, I would say. But yeah, looking into the technology, Nick, this is what I got, and then you tell me if I got it correctly. So basically,
no, I won't. I won't. So just reading the presentation sentence on the website of Sibylla makes me a headache. Awesome. I wonder what language that is. So please go ahead.
I had to dig deeper. These things I had to go and
I know
what is going on there. So the idea is that a lot of diseases are based on some form of development of proteins. So proteins are made by basically amino acids, chains of amino acids. And before their protein, apparently from chain, they kind of get into a 3D shape. So this is called folding. So when the chain folds, then it actually becomes an active protein. So that's when actually the protein has a weight inside the body, does some form of activity. So the usual pharma industry targets specific proteins that can generate maybe neurodegenerative disease or other kind of disease. These guys, they're developing something that actually blocks the folding. So actually they don't even reach the status of a harmful protein. So essentially, by targeting the cycle, by blocking the cycle, then they aim at finding a way to actually block the formation of harmful proteins within the body, and henceforth helping to solve some elements of some problems for specific diseases, essentially. So I was terrible. My explanation totally sucked, but I think we got the overall point. I thought it was very interesting, actually.
Well, I have to say, if it is correct, it's pretty clear. Made it clear. So I'm not joking. I had no idea what they were doing before. Thank you, Jack. As you said, the round is quite sizable for being a Series A round, and quite international.
Yeah.
The lead investor and a few of the other funds are from outside of Italy, and we have some national players.
Yeah.
And repeat investors from within, if I'm not wrong, such as Vertis, which I believe was the seed investor in Sibylla before this round. It's a good syndication.
Yeah, another, the lead investor, Venture. I was kind of trying to see exactly what these guys are doing. So essentially, they are connected with VIB, which is a research institute, I believe, in Belgium, if I'm not mistaken. So
that's from Belgium.
Yeah, there is always this angle, which is kind of interesting because especially in the biotech space, where you have traditional VCs working together with like very sophisticated research institution that actually play also a role into the venture space. So it's a unique player right there that you have. So I thought it was an interesting dynamics right there.
Oh, that's interesting. But what type of relationship you believe there is between the VC and the company in this case? Are they like a CVC or?
From what I understand, they just say that they have so Venture says that we have a preferred relationship with the Belgium-based VIB. So that probably means I don't think they have maybe something institutionalized. They probably like basically they interface themselves with the research institution to find deals or to develop deals. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it's a properly structured CVC, but it looks like they're pretty separate. So the Bio seems like a properly structured fund, and then on the other side you have the research institution, essentially.
Yeah, actually, you're right. It's a sourcing partnership, as they say. Part of the companies we back are built on VIB-derived innovations, so that's a sourcing partnership. But not exclusive, as in this case, I believe.
Yeah. Awesome. Moving on, let's talk about Axyon AI. Axyon AI is a developer of an AI for investment service, raising 1.6 million euro, led by CDP Venture Capital, and also participated by some of the big banks like ING, Unicredit. I believe also that this company was actually at some point part of an incubation process by ING, and so it essentially got the benefit of working already with the bank to develop all the AI and the ML for investment intelligence, essentially.
Yep, I agree. And from the article, you can see it. The startup won the International Innovation Studio Acceleration Program in 2016, run by ING Banks. So there you are. And the other bit of news here is that the round was led by CDP VC, which is kind of a protagonist this week. Is that they are present in, I believe, almost all the investments.
Yeah, that's true. Did not notice that. That's a good catch. Awesome.
Yeah, well, that's probably true 60% of the time. So yes, yeah, that is what it is. And not much to add about the product. I mean, AI play applied to asset management. Yeah. So you've seen a few of them already.
Yeah, there is a predictive element. There is a forecasting and what they call also nowcasting, which is a short-term prediction. So that's an interesting way to put this. Definitely predictive, definitely like scoring also, and detection of anomalies detection in general. So this is really like a very interesting usage of data with a very specific application in terms of portfolio management, risk management, basically anything related to stock picking eventually, or other assets which can actually be managed through data. That's the idea. Interesting.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. So moving on to smaller rounds, I would say about 500K. Let's talk about AvvocatoFlash, legal tech startup raising 594K in a round led by CDP VC. So that's a very interesting play. I would say very straightforward, but extremely useful actually. So this is a platform that essentially allows you to find a lawyer within 24 hours, and apparently you can get as much as 3 proposals from different lawyers depending on your request. So looks like it's an interesting service. It's definitely like a space for disruption, given that law in general is kind of needs a lot of disruption.
Yeah. And I have to say, from my memory in this market, that in Italy we have a lot of lawyers actually. So there is a huge supply of legal services, and this is the classical play where you put in touch the supply with the demand. So I would say it is pretty straightforward in terms of the clarity of the model. I'm not gonna say it's easy to set up, of course, because the matchmaking part requires resources and time. That's for sure. But still,
Interesting.
CDP VC again leading the round. And I believe the L Venture is investing as well, since AvvocatoFlash participated to the acceleration program a few years back.
Yeah.
It's a pretty standard play for the seed rounds.
Interesting. All right, talking about the other $500,000 round, let's talk about a Green Future project, basically closing another $500,000 round. That's a very interesting concept, essentially. They're working in the climate tech industry, and they're trying to sensitize both consumer but also other operators in the economy to actually support very mission-driven causes related to the green economy and the I would say the balancing off of the carbon and the CO2 emissions. So essentially what they're allowed to do is either you buy like a subscription and then they fund the different project basically supporting these kind of causes, or they allow API access so the e-commerce can actually allow a percentage of the e-commerce expenses that any client can have online to actually be directed directly to these to certain projects. So that's it's a very interesting play. It's kind of there are two elements there. Three investors that I think they're worth mentioning. Green Arrow Capital, which is very active in Europe in general. Growth Engine, which is a holding company and focusing both on scale-ups and startups. And then Kagu Capital, which is an Australian investment company.
Yep. I think that the interesting bit here is Green Arrow Capital. That's not your standard seed stage investor. If you take a look at the website, they are an asset manager with 2 billion euros under management. So not a small operator that has been around since 2012. And it's actually investing in diversified areas, even though with this ESG and sustainable focus underneath.
Awesome.
That was quite interesting, and I believe that we are gonna see more and more projects that's doing something in this area, in particular this disintermediation between capital and projects related to sustainability.
Yeah.
Since that's not just about accessing a financial product, it's about getting access to something more complex than a financial product on different layers. And I believe that we'll see more of these intermediaries, these marketplaces, these platforms allowing you to somehow reach these type of projects in the coming years.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, that definitely goes together with the sensitivity of buyers. I mean, more and more people, more and more newer generation are sensitive to anything that is the green economy and circularity, sustainability, and so on. So it makes sense. It makes definitely like a lot of sense.
Yeah, but the problem here is that even more so than a pure financial type of play, accountability, credibility, vetting of the project, they're hard problems.
Yeah, and somebody's gonna throw some blockchain in there, and then the problem is solved.
Okay.
Just to keep track of everything.
If you say blockchain 3 times out loud, a blockchain project will materialize in front of you.
It will materialize in front of you.
Exactly.
That is true. Yeah. Maybe not anymore. After this year, maybe not anymore.
Don't be so sure.
Nice. All right, just to give a little flavor, talking about sustainability and sort of looking at it from the corporate VC side, let's talk about Ferrarelle. Ferrarelle, one of the biggest brands in Italy, basically bottled water. Essentially, what they did is they acquired equity stake into a company that essentially develops a peptide again, my bio knowledge today, it was a hard work for the day. So Nick, be glad. So essentially,
I'm just reaching up for the popcorn to listen to the second explanation. I'm really looking forward to it, please.
Yeah, no, so this is interesting because they're developing this peptide which essentially act on the packaging of water and allow a very high level of, a very low level of biological activity. So this peptide allows to have packaging which is essentially extremely clean. So that's the idea. So both in plastic containers, so this peptide apparently binds with the material, with different materials, including plastics, and works on the fact that it's essentially one of the cleanest way to bottle water. So perfectly in line with the corporate strategy. Great touch, because definitely that's an R&D element for Ferrarelle. Makes perfect sense, and it's non-obvious for sure. So awesome job. Definitely an awesome job.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
Very nice. Also, the amount invested is undisclosed, so we don't know whether and how much capital Ferrarelle invested into the project, but for sure there is some strategic synergies to come out from there, in particular for adoption of the technology and
it's beautiful. So I would like to finish with one of the news about more and more capital from CDP Group since the unlocking of this InvestEU program. So that's super interesting. So essentially, CDP just signed basically an agreement with the European Union where they're gonna be able to take essentially capital from one of the biggest funds, I would say, in Europe for the development of European economies. And that's probably going to be funneled into the venture space, in the venture ecosystem. So, now it's 60% of CDP getting involved into the startup is not stopping. That's probably the idea.
Yeah. That's true, and that's valuable. I mean, that's very cool that actually we are, and CDP is the first national bank on the article, state bank or investment arm that's signing this agreement to mobilize this huge amount of resources. I mean, we are talking about. So let me look for the number. The program InvestEU aims to stimulate up to 370 billion new investments in 5 years.
Wow. Massive.
So between first and second and third order effects. So that's a huge amount of capital.
I mean, we need to say that it's not only for venture investments.
No.
So I was checking, and that's also something cool that I want to show you, is essentially the relazione finanziaria from last year from CDP Equity, which essentially shows a little bit the structure under the hood, right? And it was really cool because actually you can see that CDP Equity is a beast with a lot of heads, a lot of turns, a lot of elements. And this is straight from their website. And it's extremely interesting, actually, because it's not only CDP Venture Capital SGR, which actually include all of the funds that we've talked about, Fondo Acceleratore, Funds of Funds Venture Italy, Fondo Boost Innovation, anything, but a very much constellation of different investment vehicles that are touching from literally infrastructure, autostrade, up to connectivity, payment system, and very much a lot of things. That's super interesting.
Yeah, they've got quite a bit of Nexi.
Yes. Yes.
Directly, indirectly.
Totally. Energy companies too. Energy
companies, but that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
Energy infrastructure.
Yeah.
Fintech infrastructure, you see.
Correct.
Euronext, Nexi.
Exactly. and then microfiber, like a cabling technologies. So infrastructure wise, they're really like touching the right button, I would say. That's pretty cool. I don't know all of them, so it's pretty complicated, I would say. One thing that caught my attention, which probably you need
the same thing I'm looking at right
what
now.
you're looking at is that in one in one of the company that where CDP Equity is majority stakeholder, FSI Investimenti SPA. So the other part is from the Kuwait Investment Authority, which is basically one of the sovereign fund of the Kuwait government. So interesting.
Yep. But if you take a look on the bottom left, you see that they have a half and half investment from the Qatar Holding LLC.
Correct.
That I believe is related to Qatar in some way.
Yeah.
The name came like that.
Yeah. And the IQ Made in Italy investment is, they basically in the prospectus, basically what they want to do is really push the Made in Italy product in general. And Qatar must be a good fan of us, I guess. Okay,
because you know that company, IQ Made in Italy.
So from the description, basically, it's an investment company that essentially wants to push like a small and medium enterprise, but making sure that there are like product that are like Italian made and then commercialized outside Italy. But yeah, I think it's more complicated than that. Yeah.
Okay, no,
an interesting portfolio though. CDP Equity, I never had the chance to actually dig into that, but it's pretty cool.
Yep. Yeah. And if you open CDP Venture Capital, you will find hundreds.
Exactly. They just put the three dots, and here's what it is. The funds of fund, acceleratori, fondo technology transfer, fondo evoluzione, fondo corporate partner in two different varieties. There are a few things essentially, yeah.
Yeah, so, if you think about it, between the Fondo Acceleratori and the Fund of Fund Venture Italy, that's a fund of fund investor in most, I believe, of Italian VC funds. Yeah. They have some kind of position into every startup that ever raised funding in Italy.
That's a good point. That's it. Yeah.
Nice.
Interesting strategy for sure. I mean, it's a big machine. It's a big machine with a lot of people, a lot of moving parts. I'm sure they're going to benefit of the fact of, both, pushing the ecosystem, but also probably like a great success stories. So they're definitely some of the best positioned investors. Interesting.
Cool.
Nick, any closing remark?
After the other week, we couldn't expect to have another one on the same line, but I think it was a good week. We also had one of our startups going shopping in France. That's not too shabby. So Casavo acquiring Proprio and continuing their internationalization. Remember that Casavo raised 100 million back in July, so they got their power to deploy. So good for that. And looking forward to the last quarter of the year. And I was looking just to close with another data point. I was looking at some data about the new funds raised in Europe so far in 2022.
Oh yeah, I think I saw that the secret database that circulated.
We are on track to break another record in terms of funds raised. Probably we might go beyond 20 billion, but it depends on this quarter. We are already at 18 point something billion.
Interesting.
It's a huge amount of money ready to be deployed in Europe. Yeah. So we'll see.
Nick, all right. Thank you so much. And I'll see you and all the other listeners next week then.
See you in a week. Ciao, Jack. Ciao, everybody. Have a great week.